She manipulated a dying woman, my brother Marcus testified in surrogate court, his voice trembling with rehearsed emotion as he pointed directly at me. Victoria forged the trust documents to steal the family business. Our grandmother was 91 years old with dementia, she couldn't have understood what she was signing. My mother wept dramatically in the gallery and my father demanded that the court order a forensic audit of every document I'd touched, every signature I'd witnessed, every paper that gave me control of the family's $47 million manufacturing company. But why did I sit calmly through 3 weeks of investigation, and why did the court-appointed forensic accountant request an emergency hearing with an expression that made my brother's confident smirk disappear entirely? Your Honor, I need to present findings that significantly alter the scope of this case. Judge Patterson looked up from the file. Proceed, Mr. Nakamura. I've completed my analysis of all trust documents, corporate records, and financial transactions related to Whitmore Industries. There is no evidence of forgery by the defendant. The trust naming Victoria Whitmore as CEO and majority beneficiary is authentic, properly executed, and consistent with Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore's documented wishes over a period of 15 years. Marcus shifted in his seat. However, during my review of company finances, I discovered $2.4 million in unauthorized transfers from corporate accounts over the past 3 years. The signatures authorizing those transfers, he paused, belonged to Marcus Whitmore. The courtroom erupted. My grandmother Eleanor had built Whitmore Industries from nothing. She'd started in 1962 with a small machine shop in Ohio, manufacturing parts for automotive companies. Through 5 decades of relentless work, strategic expansion, and shrewd business decisions, she'd grown that shop into a $47 million manufacturing company with contracts across multiple industries. She'd outlived her husband by 30 years. She'd outlived 2 of her 4 children. And she'd watched, with increasing concern, as her remaining descendants showed varying levels of interest in the business she'd built. My father, her youngest son, had never worked at Whitmore Industries. He'd married into comfortable mediocrity, my mother's family had money, and he'd been content to manage their investments rather than learn manufacturing. Marcus, my older brother, had joined the company after college but treated it as an ATM rather than a responsibility. He showed up late, delegated everything, and seemed to believe that being a Whitmore entitled him to executive compensation without executive effort. I'd started in the machine shop at 16, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. I'd worked summers during college, joined full-time after graduating, and spent 12 years earning my grandmother's trust through demonstrated competence. When she'd updated her trust to name me CEO and majority beneficiary, it wasn't manipulation. It was recognition. The family had learned about the trust 2 months after grandmother's death. I'd known about it for years, she'd told me when she first made the changes, explained her reasoning, asked if I was willing to accept the responsibility. We discussed it regularly, updating provisions as circumstances changed. Marcus had expected to inherit control. Our parents had assumed their son would lead the company, that traditional primogeniture would apply regardless of actual qualifications. The reading of the trust had been devastating for them. "This is impossible," Marcus had said, staring at the documents. "She wouldn't have, I'm the eldest grandson. I've been working at the company." "You've been collecting a salary at the company," our father had corrected. "There's a difference." She was senile. Victoria took advantage. She was not senile, the estate attorney had interrupted. Mrs. Whitmore underwent cognitive evaluation 6 months before her death, specifically to establish her capacity. She was sharp, clear, and absolutely certain about her wishes. But Marcus couldn't accept that. Our parents couldn't accept it. So they decided the documents must be forged, that I must have manipulated my way into an inheritance I didn't deserve. The lawsuit had followed within weeks. The court proceeding had been designed to humiliate me. Marcus's attorney presented me as a scheming opportunist who'd isolated an elderly woman from her family, manipulated her declining faculties, and forged documents to steal a fortune. They produced witnesses who claimed grandmother had been confused, easily led, obviously incapable of making major decisions. They presented my relationship with her as suspicious. Why did I visit so often? Why did I spend so much time alone with her? Why had I been present when so many important documents were signed? They presented my competence as evidence of manipulation. Only someone planning a long-term scheme would work so hard to ingratiate themselves with a wealthy relative. The narrative was absurd to anyone who'd actually known my grandmother. She'd been one of the sharpest minds I'd ever encountered, even in her 90s. She'd questioned every decision, challenged every assumption, demanded evidence for every proposal. Manipulating her would have been like manipulating a steel trap. But the family had committed to their story. They'd invested in expensive attorneys, hired a PR firm to manage media coverage, and coordinated their testimony to present a unified front. They demanded a forensic audit, certain it would prove their claims. They hadn't anticipated what the audit would actually find. The forensic accountant, Mr. David Nakamura, was court-appointed and utterly impartial. He'd spent 3 weeks reviewing every document related to the trust, every financial record from Whitmore Industries, every transaction that might be relevant to the forgery allegations. He'd examined signatures, paper origins, dating inconsistencies, and digital metadata. He'd found nothing suspicious about the trust documents. Every signature was authentic. Every notarization was proper. Every witness statement was consistent. What he had found was far more interesting. The unauthorized transfers began approximately 3 years ago, Mr. Nakamura explained to the court. They were structured to avoid detection, amounts just below reporting thresholds, spread across multiple accounts, disguised as vendor payments and consulting fees. Marcus's attorney objected. "Your Honor, we're here about trust forgery, not corporate finances." The defense is entitled to present evidence that the plaintiff's claims are made in bad faith, Judge Patterson ruled. Continue, Mr. Nakamura. The total amount transferred is $2,473,891.56. The funds moved through a series of shell companies and eventually into personal accounts controlled by Marcus Whitmore. That's a lie. Marcus stood. "I never." "Sit down, Mr. Whitmore. Every transfer was authorized by signatures that my analysis confirms belong to Marcus Whitmore. Many transfers also bear secondary authorization from the company's former CFO, who resigned abruptly 18 months ago and has since relocated outside the country. The former CFO had been Marcus's closest ally at Whitmore Industries. His sudden departure had puzzled me at the time. Now it made sense. Additionally, Mr. Nakamura continued, I found evidence that Marcus Whitmore was aware of his grandmother's trust provisions as early as 5 years ago, 2 years before she died. This was news to me. I turned to look at my brother, whose face had gone gray. Documentation recovered from company servers shows that Marcus accessed the estate attorney's communications with Mrs. Whitmore, read draft versions of the trust, and corresponded with his parents about the Victoria problem and how to fix it. The Victoria problem correspondence was devastating. Mr. Nakamura had recovered emails between Marcus, our father, and our mother spanning 3 years. They'd known about the trust. They'd known grandmother intended to name me CEO. And they'd strategized about how to prevent it. Early emails discussed convincing grandmother to change her mind. Later emails explored legal options for challenging the trust after her death. The most recent emails, sent after grandmother's death but before the trust was read, explicitly planned the forgery lawsuit. We'll claim she was incompetent, Marcus had written. Mom and Dad can testify she was confused. We'll demand a forensic audit and drag it out until Victoria gives up or runs out of money for lawyers. But what if the documents are verified authentic, our mother had responded. Doesn't matter. The goal isn't winning, it's making it so expensive and painful that she settles. She'll give up at least partial control to make it stop. The strategy was clear, weaponize the legal system to steal what they couldn't inherit legitimately. Judge Patterson recessed the hearing for 2 hours. During that time, Marcus's attorney attempted damage control. The emails could be misinterpreted. The transfers might have legitimate explanations. The forensic analysis might be flawed. But the evidence was overwhelming. The embezzlement was documented. The conspiracy was explicit. The bad faith was undeniable. When we reconvened, the judge's expression had hardened. I've reviewed the forensic accountant's findings and the recovered correspondence. This court finds no credible evidence of forgery by Victoria Whitmore. The trust executed by Eleanor Whitmore is authentic and valid. Marcus slumped in his chair. Furthermore, the evidence strongly suggests that this lawsuit was filed in bad faith, as part of a documented conspiracy to challenge inheritance provisions through litigation rather than legitimate legal grounds. Our mother began crying, real tears this time. The court is referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of potential criminal charges, including embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. The forensic accountant's full report will be provided to law enforcement. Marcus's attorney was already packing his briefcase. There would be no recovery from this. Ms. Whitmore, the judge addressed me directly. I apologize for the burden this fraudulent litigation has placed upon you. The court recognizes your position as legitimate CEO and majority beneficiary of Whitmore Industries. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The district attorney moved quickly. Marcus was arrested within a week, charged with embezzlement, fraud, filing false legal claims, and conspiracy. The former CFO was located in Costa Rica and extradited 3 months later. Our parents weren't criminally charged. Their involvement was more conspiracy adjacent than direct participation, but they were named in civil suits for their role in the fraudulent litigation. Marcus's bail was set at $500,000. Our parents paid it, depleting much of their savings. His legal defense would deplete the rest. "You've destroyed this family," my mother told me outside the courthouse. "Marcus destroyed this family when he started stealing from it. I just refused to let him steal from me too. Your grandmother would be ashamed." My grandmother would be ashamed that her grandson embezzled $2.4 million while accusing me of manipulation. She'd be ashamed that her son and daughter-in-law conspired to overturn her explicit wishes. She'd be proud that I stood my ground and let the truth emerge. We haven't spoken since. The criminal trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was irrefutable. The shell companies traced directly to Marcus. The signatures were verified authentic. The conspiracy emails showed premeditation and planning. Marcus's defense tried to claim he'd been entitled to the money, that as a Whitmore family member, he had implicit rights to company funds that made his transfers legitimate advances on his inheritance. The jury found him guilty on all counts. The sentence was 7 years in federal prison. The former CFO received 5 years in a separate proceeding. Our parents sat in the courtroom gallery throughout the trial, watching their golden child convicted of crimes they'd helped enable. They believed so strongly in Marcus's entitlement that they helped him plan a fraudulent lawsuit rather than accept that grandmother had chosen someone else. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Whitmore Industries thrived under my leadership. The company had been stagnating under the previous management structure, too much family entitlement, too little actual innovation. I implemented changes grandmother and I had discussed for years: new technology investments, expanded product lines, better relationships with workers who actually made the business run. Within 2 years, revenue had increased by 34%. Within 5 years, we'd expanded into 3 new markets and doubled our workforce. The employees who watched the family drama unfold were initially uncertain. Would I prove to be another entitled Whitmore, or something different? I hope I proved the latter. I certainly tried. "Your grandmother would be proud," our longtime plant manager told me once. "She always said you were the one who understood what this company actually meant." What did it mean to her? Work. Honest work, done well, creating things that mattered. She built this place with her hands before she ever sat behind a desk. You're the only family member who ever bothered to learn what that felt like. Marcus was released after 4 years for good behavior. He emerged from prison diminished. The arrogance that had carried him through life had been stripped away by years of consequences he never anticipated. He'd lost his wife, she'd filed for divorce during the trial, his money, legal fees and restitution had consumed everything, and his identity as the heir apparent to a family fortune. He contacted me once, 6 months after his release. "I need a job." "You're not working at Whitmore Industries." "I'm not asking for executive position. Just something." "I have skills." "You have skills in embezzlement and fraud." "Those aren't qualifications I'm looking for." "Victoria, please. I've lost everything." "You threw everything away. You had a position at a successful company, a family legacy, opportunities most people never receive. And instead of earning your place, you stole $2.4 million and tried to destroy me when you got caught." "I've changed." "Maybe. But I don't owe you the chance to prove it. Find work somewhere else. Build something yourself, if you can. That's what grandmother did. That's what I did. Maybe it's time you tried." I ended the call. Our parents eventually reached out. Not with apologies. They were constitutionally incapable of admitting fault, but with carefully worded expressions of regret about how circumstances had damaged family relationships. They wanted reconciliation, by which they meant they wanted access to the wealth they'd tried to steal through Marcus. I declined. Politely, but firmly. "We can have a relationship," I told them, "but it won't include Whitmore Industries. You don't get board positions, consulting fees, or influence over business decisions. You chose to try to take this company from me through fraud. That choice has consequences. We're your parents. We're the people who conspired with Marcus to overturn grandmother's wishes and steal my inheritance through manufactured litigation. Family doesn't override that." They've stopped calling. I don't know if they found peace with their choices, and I've stopped caring. Grandmother's portrait hangs in my office. It was painted when she was 65, still running the company personally, still walking the factory floor daily, still holding every employee to the standards she held herself. She looked formidable in that portrait. Determined. Proud. I talk to her sometimes, when the office is empty and decisions feel heavy. "Marcus is out of prison," I told her portrait once. "He asked for a job. I said no." The portrait, obviously, didn't respond. But I imagined what she would have said. "Good. He needs to build something himself, not inherit it or steal it. But he's family. Family is what you do, not what you're called. You earned your place here. He tried to take it. Those aren't equivalent claims on your loyalty." She'd never been sentimental about family. She'd loved us, certainly, but she'd also assessed us honestly. Marcus's charm had never fooled her. Our parents' passivity had disappointed her. My work ethic had earned her respect. The trust wasn't manipulation. It was recognition. Elijah, my son, started at Whitmore Industries last summer. He's 16, the same age I was when I first walked onto the factory floor. He's learning to run the machines, understand the processes, appreciate what it takes to make something real. Is this because I'll inherit the company someday? He asked. This is because understanding a business from the ground up makes you a better leader. Whether you inherit the company depends on whether you earn it. Like you did? Like I did. And like your great-great-grandmother did when she started this place with nothing but determination. What if I'm not good enough? Then someone else will lead the company, and you'll find what you are good at. There's no shame in that. The shame is in expecting something you haven't earned, and in taking something that isn't yours. He nodded, absorbing the lesson. Then he went back to the machine he was learning, making parts that would ship to customers who had no idea a teenage Whitmore was crafting them. Grandmother would approve. The forensic audit was meant to destroy me. Marcus had demanded it certain that investigation would prove his accusations. Our parents had supported it certain that exposure awaited me. Instead, it exposed everything they'd done, the embezzlement, the conspiracy, the bad faith litigation designed to steal through courts what they couldn't inherit legitimately. I've thought about that often. They were so confident in their narrative, that I was the manipulator, that they were the victims, that a forensic examination would validate everything they believed. They deconstructed an elaborate story about my scheming and never considered that their own schemes might not survive examination. Your Honor, there's no forgery by the defendant. But I found $2.4 million missing from company accounts. Those words ended Marcus's freedom. They also ended my family as I'd known it, the relationships I'd tried to maintain despite their obvious contempt, the connections I'd preserved out of obligation rather than love. But they also freed me. From pretending that family loyalty required accepting abuse. From hoping that people who'd conspired against me might someday respect me. From the burden of believing that blood obligated me to people who saw me only as an obstacle. He claimed I forged the documents. He testified that I'd manipulated a dying woman. He demanded forensic examination, certain it would prove his accusations and expose my alleged crimes. What it actually exposed was $2.4 million he'd stolen from the company he thought he deserved to inherit. The audit he demanded became the evidence that sent him to prison. The investigation he'd orchestrated became the tool that revealed his conspiracy. Grandmother left me the company because I'd earned it. Marcus tried to take it because he believed he was owed it. The difference between earning and expecting turned out to be the difference between leading a business and serving a sentence. He thought the audit would destroy me. Instead, it freed me, from his claims, from his conspiracy, and from the illusion that family means tolerating theft from people who share your blood.